So, first of all, to start this session, I bow down to my guru because of which I've been able to get this knowledge. I bow down to Ganapati, the removal of all the vignas, and I bow down to my Ishtadev, Sri Ram, Sri Sita Ram, and I seek their blessings to be able to complete this session without any troubles. That said, let us come to the topic of divisional charts. This is a very important field of Vedic astrology, and my purpose today is to explain it in a layman language, including the mathematics behind it. Now you may ask, why do I need to know the mathematics and the software system? Give me everything. You need to know the mathematics because that helps you understand the concept of Ganana in Vedic astrology. Ganana is extremely crucial as a concept in Vedic astrology, and Ganana refers to calculation. So the chart is something that we cast from the moment that you are born, the place that you are born. That is like a static representation, a static sidereal representation of your chart of the skies at the moment of your birth. For those of you who are not aware about the difference between tropical and sidereal, you have to understand that Vedic astrology uses both of it. So I hear a lot of heated arguments and debates on Twitter about this is superior. No, that is nonsense. Vedic astrology uses the tropical zodiac as well as the sidereal zodiac. So in case this surprises some of you, let me explain that to you. When it comes to seasons, all the Panchang makers, they refer to tropical zodiac for season. When it comes to a lot of mundane predictions, especially predictions related to commodity prices and stock market prices, we refer to tropical zodiac and not the sidereal zodiac. So the basic difference is the tropical zodiac is aligned to the seasons. Sidereal zodiac, on the other hand, at some point in time, the sages thought that for predictive astrology in particular, for human predictive astrology, they preferred a method in which they would like to fix a frame of reference in the skies. So that fixed frame of reference in the skies is what you call as nakshatra. The entire zodiacal belt, which is like a belt, two-dimensional belt, it appears like a two-dimensional belt that crosses our Earth at the ecliptic plane. That has been divided into 27 nakshatras. And we like to start with the first nakshatra, that is the start of Aries for us. So what happens that Aries will not always be at the first degree or the 0 degree of April every time because of the precision of the equinoxes. When you look at the precision of the equinoxes, there is some change in degrees, and that is why the sidereal zodiac is used. So that was a brief introduction about sidereal and tropical zodiac. And what you need to be very clear about is that Vedic astrology, for many purposes, actually uses tropical zodiac. So it is not that tropical zodiac is not used in Vedic astrology. Next, so what are divisional charts? You'll find a lot of heated debates, a lot of heated opinion everywhere, even among astrologers about the usage of these charts. You'll find them disagreeing on the way to read these charts. So naturally, there is a lot of confusion, and reading about these charts is where the confusion is more pronounced. How is it that you read this? There are some people who actually say that you don't even need to look at the divisional charts. But if you look at the tradition, if you look at all the great astrologers of the year, and if you look at all the scriptural texts that we take as basis of Jyotish, you'll find that divisional charts has always been talked about. It has been talked about in almost all great Jyotish texts. And that brings us to another concept of tradition and schools of astrology. So most of us, we know that there are two schools, tropical and sidereal. We are happy with that, but there is much more to that. In Western tropical astrology, also there are many schools, and in Indian astrology, there are a lot many schools. Now, because a lot of things have become a lot more structured, and we are no longer uh, limited by a particular tradition of learning. It has done two things. One, the lines have blurred between traditions, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. In my opinion, it is more a bad thing. What happens when you learn in a tradition is that you know with absolute certainty that there is one or two methods which is being taught to you works. Now, when you blur this line of tradition, then you are neither here nor there. You will try to look at your chart the Parashari way. You will try to look at your chart the Jamini way. You will try to look your chart the Phaladipika way. You will try to look your chart the Jatak Parijat way. And yes, all of them will try to look your chart the Saravali way, and you'll find that there are differences. There are marked differences when it comes to different texts about how to approach the basic reading of a chart. So, how to get out of this confusion? It is not easy, especially if you are learning from books and if you are learning from YouTube. It is not easy. You'll have to find your path. But in the interest of intellectual honesty, I should be clear about the method that I follow, and that will help you understand through the course of this presentation why I say certain things that I say. I follow the method which has been laid down in a text called Urudaya Pradeepa, which is otherwise known as Laghu Parashari. Some of the great astrologers in the tradition of Vedic astrology have called it Srimad Bhagavad Gita of astrology, and there is a reason for that. Brihat Parashara Horasastra, which is considered the undisputed tomb of Vedic astrology, is supposed to have 100 chapters. What is survived today is anything between 70 and 80 chapters. It is a huge book. There are many methods that are elaborated, and in fact, it is rightly said that every chapter of Brihat Parashara Horasastra has led to a new method of prediction. Now, that is right. For example, in Parashara Horasastra, Maharshi Parashara talks about Bhava Chalit chart, Bhava Chalit Kundali. Now, Bhava Chalit Kundali is nothing but Placidus, what we know as Placidus in Western astrology. So, as you are aware, some of you, that in Indian astrology, we typically use whole house system where one sign is equal to one house. What does it mean? That between two houses, the signs don't overlap. The signs remain the same in those two houses, right? So, on the basis of Placidus, and again on the basis of some of the sutras of Nadi astrology, what happened was that a very famous method of astrology got developed in India, which is called KP astrology, Krishnamurti Paddhati. Similarly, you will find that individual chapters. I have got a feedback on my DMs, Revati or Kazmi, any of you, you can confirm that my voice is dropping in between. Can you please confirm? It is dropping, Revati. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Let me just check my connection. Just give me 1 second. I'll just check my connection. I hope it should be better now. Revati, can you confirm if the voice is better now?
Yeah, the voice is better now, and I'll let you know if it drops again.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you for that. So, we were talking about the different traditions. So, Parashara Maharshi, he writes about Placidus charts as Bhava Chalit Paddhati, and a KP method is developed many years down the line. Similarly, many other methods also have been developed. In fact, Maharshi Jamini also, it is said that he was in the same tradition as Parashara, and that is why he did not call his style of astrology a school of astrology. He just says that it is, these are the sutras, these are the some key ideas that can help you understand Parashari astrology. But later on, there were writers like Varahamihir, there were writers like Mantreshwara, there were writers like Acharya Vaidyanath. These are the three who had the most profound impact on the way that astrology is done in India. So, the part of predictive astrology that Varahamihir wrote is called Brihajatak, and he explained the methodology of analyzing the chart, which is very interesting and very good. People who follow that, they get excellent results. Then, in Phaladipika, Mantreshwara also proposed a style of astrology, a style of analyzing the charts, which again is exceptionally good, works beautifully. Acharya Vaidyanath in Jatak Parijat, his magnificent magnum opus, he actually too talks about astrology in great detail, and that too is fabulous. In fact, Pandit Sanjay Rath, he takes a lot in his tradition from Phaladipika and Jatak Parijat, especially Jatak Parijat. If you read, if you study, if you listen to Pandit Sanjay Rath, you'll find that there are many references to Jatak Parijat, including the different styles of Vimshottari Dasha system that he talks about. That said, there is another very, very small book of just 40 quartets, 40 shlokas called Ududaya Pradipa. Udu is nakshatra, Daya is given, Pradipa is light, the light you get from the nakshatras. And this book has just 40 small shlokas, just 40 small shlokas, and that has been called the Bhagavad Gita of astrology because just like Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all the Upanishads, Ududaya Pradipa has the essence of everything that Maharshi Parashara had to say about predictive astrology. If you take the book of Ududaya Pradipa, you'll probably finish it in half an hour. That is all. But do you learn it? No, you'll not. Because that book, first of all, is written for scholars of astrology, not for beginners of astrology. You touch Ududaya Pradipa once you have mastered Brihajataka and Phaladipika. And then Ududaya Pratipa tells you a method of astrology which is so fine that it will blow your minds. Why is it so good? It is very good because it is predictive in nature. You predict the future. You no longer are predicting the personality. Even in Indian systems of astrology, there is a lot of focus on personality prediction. No. This is a heavily dasha dependent system wherein almost down to every day and every hour of your life can be predicted. It is such a powerful system. And when you integrate it with Sarvato Bhadraved, Sarvato Bhadrache Chakra, and a couple of other tools, including the divisional charts, this becomes like a extremely formidable method of prediction. So that was my school. And I got to it by accident. I was talking to a very traditional astrologer. In fact, Ududaya Pradeepa is a book which is being referred to by traditional astrologers. If you go to the big 8 generation, 10 generation astrological families in India, in Varanasi, you will find that these guys in their parampara is tradition, they have mastered Ududaya Pradeepa. If you go to the Trivedis of Solan, who write the Vishwavijaya Panchanga, these guys, through tradition, they have mastered the Ududaya Pradeepa. There was a big astrologer called Dr. Vyasa in Ujjain, who even Dr. V.V. Raman used to say that if Dr. Vyas says something, it is correct. And he was the one who cast the birth chart of Indira Gandhi on the request of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, because there were some problems with birth time rectification. And Dr. Raman said to Pandit Nehru that the only person who can do an absolutely correct work is Mr. Vyas. Mr. Vyas was such a fabulous astrologer. Even he would say that Ududaya Pradeepa is the pinnacle of Vedic astrology. Now, what does Ududaya Pradeepa does? Ududaya Pradeepa, once your ascendant is fixed, the science becomes the houses. Is that point clear? It should be clear to anyone who understands astrology That once you are born and your ascendants are born by the whole science system, the signs becomes the houses. Second, once your ascendant is fixed, then it is also fixed as to which are the planets that will be good for you, which are the planets that will be bad for you. And the interesting part here is that it doesn't depend on what the actual placement of those planets is. This may take some time to imbibe, and that therefore I'll repeat. Once your ascendant is fixed, your signs become your houses. Once your signs become your houses, based on the ownership of your signs, based on the ownership of the houses because of the signs. Ownership by whom? Ownership of the houses because of the signs by the planets who rule the signs. We can decide which planet is going to be malefic for this individual, which planet is going to be benefic for this individual, and which planet is going to be neutral for this individual. This method of putting planets in neat categories is what you call as the method of Karakadi Sangya. Karak Adi Sangya. So it is Karak, which is benefic, Akarak, which is malefic, and Tatastha, which is neutral. Doesn't matter what the Nasargic Prakriti of the Graha is. When I say Nasargic Prakriti of the Graha, it is doesn't matter whether the planet is a natural benefic or a natural malefic. As per your ascendant, it can be a huge natural benefic like a Jupiter or a Venus. It can become a malefic of first rate. Depending on your chart, your ascendant only, your a very malefic, highly malefic planet like Saturn or a Mars can become extremely benefic for your chart. That is the premise. Okay. Now let us build on the premise. On the basis of this, the second is all the combinations in your chart, they show their result only during the major dashas, and in this, the dasha, the only dasha we use is the Vimshottari dasha. The major dashas, antardashas, and pratyantardashas, it is when all the planetary combinations, placements, aspects, conjunctions, yogas, all of them, they show their result only during the transits and the dashas of these planets. So dashas you see by Bimshottari and transits you see by Sarvatobhadra. Sarvatobhadra is one of the esoteric chakras that we use in Vedic astrology. It is also used in mundane for predicting simple things like volcanoes, for predicting things like earthquakes, for predicting things like tsunami, for predicting things like how the weather of the country will be, and with extreme accuracy. So if you look Vishwavijay Panchang or Martanga Panchang over the years, you will find that they in weather forecasting they never get it wrong. Never. No meteorological agency can match the skill of a mundane Medini astrologer, Vedic astrologer who knows his stuff. Weather prediction can be extremely good. Tsunami prediction can be extremely good. All these things can be taken care of by an extension of this Sarvatobhadra Chakra. But again, coming back to the point, why did I give you so much of introduction? Because when I talk about divisional charts, the first question is how do you analyze divisional charts? So first, let us understand what divisional charts are. Divisional charts are basically divisions. Okay. So you have your chart, your Rashi chart, we call the ascendant chart, whatever you might like to call it, the basic birth chart that you have, the sidereal Vedic birth chart. When I say the sidereal Vedic birth chart, there is always a confusion that comes about Ayanamsha. So when in doubt, go with Lahiri. That is there in everywhere. If you are comfortable with circular charts, go to astroseek.com. They make beautiful circular charts following Lahiri Ayanamsha in the Vedic astrology method. So there you can get it. Now you divide the signs into parts, and basis the degrees of the planets, you put those planets in particular aspects. That is basically called the divisional charts. Why do we do divisional charts? Because divisional charts are said to be the keys for us to understand horoscopes and unlock things that may not immediately be visible in your natal chart. Now, let me spend some time here. You'll find a lot of scholars, especially a lot of scholars on Twitter, arguing the fact that whatever is not there in your Rashi chart cannot be there in your divisional chart. The statement by itself is a logical fallacy. Why is it a logical fallacy? It is a logical fallacy because all the divisional charts are derived charts. And where do they derive themselves from? They derive themselves from the Rashi chart. So you can say that if the Rashi chart is actually your major chart is like a fruit, then all the divisional charts are like fruit juices, fruit salads, the different forms of it. You cannot say that fruit juice cannot exist because it is not fruit. That is a very simple logical fallacy, which we must avoid at all costs. Now, each Rashi is divided into n number of parts, which we call as amshas. Amshas is just parts. Therefore, these charts are also called amsha charts. Now, they are divisions. Therefore, they are also called varga charts. Varga are divisions. And there are 16 divisions which have been accepted by Maharshi Parashara. Of those 16 divisions, I will not talk about two divisions because I don't understand them, which is D40 and D45. Other divisions also, please understand that it is not very easy to get good literature about how to analyze them. The sages in India, they would not detail things out. They would just give you an idea. This is how it is. Now you explore that idea. That exploration is not there. Therefore, I don't know D40 and D45. I'll not talk about that. Even among the divisional charts, I'll be talking in detail, in whatever detail the time permits, only a few divisional charts and not all the divisional charts. Now, to give you an idea, because we are talking of divisions, so naturally, your Rashi chart, your natal chart, it becomes the first division. Divided by 1 is the same. X divided by 1 equal to X. The Rashi chart is about everything in your life. There are two other charts which are about everything in your life. One is the Navamsha, second is the Shashtiyamsha. The Navamsha is what we call as D9. It is the ninth division of your chart. The Shashtiyamsha is called the D60. It is called the 60th division of your chart. Therefore, there are three charts which govern all the areas of your life, which are the Rashi chart, the Navamsha, and the Shashtiyamsha. In the pinned thread that we have for this space, you can see that I have given the calculation of different divisional charts. I'll explain for a couple of them going forward. But while we are talking, you can actually go through them to understand it in more details. Now let us talk about the other divisions. The next main division is Hora, where you simply divide the chart into two houses, one house ruled by sun and one house ruled by moon. Hora is said to be studied for wealth of the native. Now there are differences about what kind of wealth has been talked about in Hora. And frankly, I don't know any person, any astrologer who uses Hora to study wealth of an individual. I don't know how to do that. So when I said I don't know about D40 and D45, I don't also know how to use Hora for ascertaining the wealth of the individual. Next is D4, which is Chaturamsha. D4 gives you a microscopic view into the significations of the fourth house. There are three charts actually which give you a microscopic view into the significations of the fourth chart. They are D4, which is Chaturamsha that we talk about, Chaturthamsha. Then there is D16, which is Shodashamsha, and D24, which is Chaturbimshamsha or Siddhamsha. These are the three charts which are studied for the fourth house of the horoscope. That is to get a microscopic picture. Divisional charts is all about getting a microscopic picture of particular houses of your horoscopes. D4, in this case, the Chaturamsha, it is studied for property, especially fixed assets. It is talked about fortunes, especially those which you might have inherited or created while staying at your home place. Okay? Yes. So, that is about. Also, it is used to see your primary and secondary education. Fourth house is primary and secondary education. Fifth house is Swadhyaya, the study that you do for yourself. And ninth house is your higher education. That is how we divide the different houses. And second house is the house of Vidya, learning wisdom. Okay, so Vidya is second and fifth basically. And fourth is for primary and secondary. And ninth is for higher education. So that was D4. Similarly, we talked that there are three charts that talk about the fourth house. So let us look at the second, which is Shodashamsa, D16th. Shodashamsa, it represents vehicles, it represents luxuries, it represents different kinds of happiness. Now, if you think about it, all these things are actually governed by your fourth house only. Luxuries, comforts of life, also the balance of struggle and achievement. Besides, this also tells you about your baser tendencies of your life. Things that you will not be too comfortable maybe discussing with your wife or with your parents. That is also known from D16. Now, next we come to D24, the third house, that is the third division that is studied for fourth house. So, this is studied for education and knowledge. Please understand the difference. Education is formalized education, knowledge is what you gain from all kinds of sources, including your gurus, including your partners, including your friends, including your co-workers, including a random stranger on Twitter. Whatever you get is studied from D24. Even higher education for that matter, D24 also is a gateway to the ninth aspect of higher education. It tells you about memory of the person, how good the memory of a person will be, and how will the accomplishments of the person be at a personal and a professional level. That for you is the 24th division of your chart, which we call as Chaturbimshamsha or Siddhamsha. That is where you get the idea of this. Now, let us come to the next chart of concern for us. So, we have talked about D4, we have talked about D2, we have not talked about D3. D3 is Deshkan. This is the decnet that many of you in Western astrology are already aware of. There is a division of the zodiac into three parts. The way that we calculate the Parashari Deshkan, there are many kinds of these calculations also. Okay, so you have the Parashari Drishkon or Deshkan, and then you have the Jagannath Drishkan, and you have the Varanasi Drishkan. These are the three different kinds of Drishkon that are used for studying different things. Let us stick to all the Parashari calculations for the time being, because a proper study of divisional charts actually involves a couple of quarters of study of astrological knowledge, and all we have is probably a couple of hours. So we'll have to be unfortunately only be skimming the surface. Now, Dashkan D3, there's a microscopic look on your third house. So, what does the third house stand for? It stands for your co-bonds, your siblings. So, how your siblings will do in their life, how your relationship with your siblings be, how the children of siblings will be with your siblings and with you, what how the ups and downs in the life of your siblings will be, everything without The benefit of your sibling's chart can be known from Drishkan with great accuracy, including the timing of events. Next, it is studied for courage because third house is the Parakrama Bhav. This is the house of courage. Courage for everything. Just 1 minute. So Parakrama Bhava is the Bhava of Parakrama, courage. Bhava is actually, so in Vedic astrology, we don't call them houses. Houses would be Graha. We don't call them Graha. We call them Bhava. Bhava is the state of mind. Every house of your astrology, of your horoscope, actually represents a state of mind. So the state of mind that the third house represents is Parakrama. Parakrama is actually your enterprise, your valor, okay, your courage with which you face the situations in your life. And since third house is also the Upachaya house, which is one of the four free will houses, there are four free will houses in your horoscope, with which actually shows the Purushartha, how much you can change your destiny by your own enterprise, by your own actions. That is something which is known from the third division. Okay, another confirmation check. Revati, is the voice loud and clear all the time?
Yeah?
Thank you for that. So, that was the third division that we talked about. So, it represents color, your valor, it represents courage. It represents intrinsic motivation to make your life better than what your parents give it to you, the situation of your life. That is seen from Drishkan. And definitely, if you look at all traditions of astrology, that is very important for this reason because that tells you about the enterprise of the person. It tells you about the confidence of this person. Third house is also friendship in addition to 11th house. It tells you about your friendships. It tells you about your partnerships that you do with your friends mostly. It tells you about your health also. So third house is also a house of health. Plus third house is Ayusthana, the house of life. Third and eighth house are the Ayusthana, and second and seventh house are the Maranasthana. They are the Marakasthana. So third and eighth house tells you about longevity. Second and seventh house it tells you about your death. So D3 is also studied to understand the completion of your life. So the timing of death of an individual can be given to the accuracy of Ghati Pal. Ghati Pal is a very small measurement of astrology. So it can be given to that level just on the basis of Dashkana. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is that if you know Dashkana, you can predict the exact time, moment, and to a fairly certain degree, there are higher methods. You can even tell the place of death of a person. That is the power of Drashkana chart. Now, after Drashkana, after we have covered the third division of the zodiac, and we already covered the fourth division, which is the Chaturamsha. Let us come to one of the most important divisions, which is called the Saptamsha. Saptamsha is D7. So, how do you calculate this? The calculations are all given in the thread. You can see that. For odd signs, the sequence begins with the same sign. So, say it is for Aries, then first you divide those 30 degrees into 7. So, it will be 44 degree, almost 17 minutes. So, 16 minutes and some seconds, right? So, for Aries, if it is 0 to 4 degree 17, it will be Aries. And similarly, 417 to 834 Taurus, and so on, going up to Libra. Now, if it is an even sign, then the sequence of counting begins from the seventh sign. So, for example, suppose it is Cancer. Then the seventh sign from Cancer will be Capricorn. So you will start counting from Capricorn accordingly and you will divide it. Now, this is studied for your children and your grandchildren. What do we study? We study when you are likely to get a child, when your children are likely to get a child, not just when you are likely to get a child, when your children are likely to get a child. What will be the status and condition of your children in your life? what will be your relationship with your children in your life? When is it that your children expect to get married? When is it that your children are expected to give you grandchildren, to get their own children? When you will get children, whether the children will survive or not, what will be the sex of the children? Now, a lot of these things, they're not printed in modern astrology books, and we avoid to talk them because falling in the hand of unscrupulous people, that can lead to and with the prevalent gender bias that we have almost everywhere in the universe, that can lead to abortion of the female child. The reason why the pre birth sex identification is banned in countries like India and many other countries. So we avoid giving that information out to our clients because of this unfortunate bias that is prevalent in many number of patriarchal societies. But Shashtamsha can give you that information. And like I said, Shashtamsha can tell you almost everything that is there to know about your children even before they are born without the benefit of their chart. And that includes timing. So the great astrologer Dr. B.V. Raman, on the basis of his Shaptamsha D7, in his book, he actually explains the birth of each of his children, the death of some of his children, the abortion and he had 7 or 8 children, if I'm not wrong. Everything he has explained beautifully in his book from his chart and how those children are supposed to do. So one of his eldest children, if I'm not wrong, he was a true legend in astrology, and people felt that he would even outdo Dr. B. Raman. And he did not live long enough. The unfortunate part of being an astrologer is Dr. B.V. Raman knew that he would not live long. He could not, of course, share it, but he had made a diary entry that there are chances that the guy will not survive. So that is where Shaptamsha comes into picture. It is the D7, where without the benefit of the chart of your own children, you can get to know about them. Next is Navamsha. Navamsha is one chart that everyone casts. All Vedic astrologers cast the Navamsha chart, even if they do not cast chart, any other divisional chart. So there will be a lot of Vedic astrologers you'll find who depend just on the Rashi and Navamsha. They do not even cast any other chart. There is a reason for that. Navamsha, Shashtiyamsha, and Rashi, which means D9, D16, and your D1, their natal chart. These are the 3 charts which are seen for every aspect of your life. Now, there are some shortcuts also which are very helpful for people who don't want to look at it for every aspect of their life. They look it only for marriage. So Navamsha is so popular because almost every second person or almost every person who comes to an astrologer who is not married, he wants to know when he will get married. Predicting the time of marriage, predicting the sustenance of marriage, whether the marriage will stay or whether it will end in a divorce, predicting second, third, fourth, fifth marriages, everything can be done with Navamsha. Predicting the ups and downs of your career can be done on the basis of the Navamsha. So Navamsha is like an all-purpose chart that is used to explain almost everything that you would like to know about your chart. Next is the Dashamsha. Dashamsha is D10. That actually gives you an idea about the success of the person in career, profession, and politics. It also tells you about the personality of the person. So if I have to look at the personality of the person, I always look at D10. Now here also the calculation is quite easy. For odd signs, you start counting for the same sign, and for even signs, the sequence begins from the ninth sign. So all the calculations are given. I'll not repeat them. But the Shamsha is seen for work, career, profession. Next is Dwadashamsha, is the 12th house, is the 12th division of the zodiac. So why do you see Dwadashamsha? Dwadashamsha is seen for your parents. How your relationship with your parents or your foster parents will be. It can also tell you, even if you miss that detail in your astrological chart, whether the person was raised by his own parents or was raised by his foster parents. That can also be known from a proper study of Dwadashamsha. So most people start and end. Most people don't study Dwadashamshas. Those who do, they start and end with a relationship with parents. But that does not tell you anything about Dwadashamsa. Dwadashamsa is actually studied for Vasanas and Sanskaras. Let me explain that. Vasanas are the mental tendencies and blocks that you are born with because of your many past lives and the experiences in those past lives. So Vasanas is what you have accumulated because of your experiences. Sanskaras is what you have accumulated because of your habits, because of things that you have done again and again and again in your life, in your past lives. So, the mental tendencies, blocks, the habits, and most importantly, the psychological patterns that you are expected to that are expected to keep recurring again and again and again in your life, they can be understood very well with the Dwadashamsha. And this calculation is actually very simple. You divide into the 30 degree into 12 parts of 2.5 degree each, and you just count with the sign. So there is no odd even signs, you just count with the sign. Next, we come to Shodashamsha. Shodashamsha, what does it mean? Shodashamsha is again, like we said, it is the study of the sixth house. So we have discussed Shodashamsha, fourth house, the three charts, D4, D16, and D24, we have already studied. Next is Bimshamsha. Bimshamsha is the D20. It is study for longevity, inheritance, analytical abilities, spiritual practices. This sort of gives you a peek into the eighth house signification. And to some extent ninth house, but I think it is mostly eighth house. It also gives you an idea of spiritual practices, and many gurus, Jyotish gurus actually give you your Ishtadev on the basis of that. I don't do that. I believe spirituality begins where astrology ends. Therefore, any such indications are done by Purushartha, the Upachaya. And I don't even look at those indications because the astrologers will tell you that they can tell you your Ishtadev using the birth chart. That is something, in my humble opinion, it is something that should be avoided because we have to understand that what is there in the remit of astrology, what is not there in the remit of astrology, what are the things you can tell by astrology, what are the things you can't tell by astrology. When it comes to spiritual realms, astrology no longer has any say. Okay. So that brings us to the next chart, which is Nakshatramsha. Nakshatramsha is very important. It is also called Bhamsha. It is the 27th division of your chart. So when you look at Bhamsha or Nakshatramsha, it basically tells you about Vivek. Vivek is discrimination. How you react under different situations that are testing in nature. Okay. So we have the entire cycle of karma developed in the conversation between Arjuna and Krishna in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And one of the key things there is how to take a decision. Because Arjuna is said to have become King Kartabya Vimud. He did not know what to do. And so whenever a situation in life comes when you become King Kartabya Vimud, you don't know what to do, Nakshatramsha will give you an idea of how the person is going to react when forced in a certain situation. And there are huge number of combinations which are given in Phaladiti. Now, in classical pop psychology, we say there are three responses to such situation, which is freeze, flight, and fight. That is you freeze. That is a king kartabya vimurta situation. You don't know what to do. Flight is you run away. And fight is that you fight the situation with all your might, which is you bring your upchaya into effect. Here you get much more combination. I don't remember it is either 12 or 27 combinations where you get an exact idea when things like that comes to your life, how you'll be able to feel. And which the natural corollary of knowing it is that you end up knowing the strengths and weaknesses of the person at a psychological level. And that in itself is a great input. Many people come to you because they are struggling with the patterns that they're facing in their life. They want to know why things are happening in their life the way they are. And the best astrological remedy is to first know that things are not happening because of external factors. Things are happening because of the way that you think and you perceive things to be. There are some limiting patterns which cause the situations to happen in your life. And that prarabdha is actually a set of brain impulses that is there in our mind. And what counseling, what astrology, what remedies, what puja, mantra, yantra, ratna, all of they do, they help you break out of that pattern of prarabdha by working on your mental patterns. And that is why remedies are difficult because we are talking about behavior change, we are talking about vasanas and sanskaras which have been there for so many ages to be broken. And it is not an easy thing. And if your astrologer doesn't understand nakshatra anka, he cannot help you there. So the reason I'm explaining some of these things to you in greater detail is because you need to understand the beauty and the depth as well as the strength of Vedic astrology. There are so many things that can be discussed on the basis of what you want to know, what your client wants to know. Next is the Trimashamsha. Trimashamsha is the 30th division that talks about evils, that talks about bad luck, that talks about bad events, that talks about health issues. And because it talks about health issues and all that, some variations of the Trimashamsha can also tells you about good periods of health, good periods of prosperity. So basically, the six things in life: Hani, Labh, Jeevan, Marana, Yash, Apayash. What are they? Hani is loss, Labh is profit, Jeevan is life, Maran is death, Yash is fame, and Apayash is infamy. All these six things can be learned by a proper study of the Trimashamsha. I said I don't know how to analyze D40 and D45, therefore I'll skip D40 and D45. They are called Khavedamsha and Akshavedamsha respectively. And I'll come to Shashthyamsha. Shashthyamsha, many people very cavalierly say that it is the list of all your past karmas. Now, it is here that we need to understand karmas a little bit. Okay? Everything in the astrology is actually a result of past karmas, the past vasanas, the past sanskaras, which have come to form prarabdha, things we are supposed to live in this life, the good and bad indications, from the ghat, from the pot of sanchita. Sanchita is the pot which keeps all the karmas from all our lifetime. A small subset of that pot, those karmas have come to us in this life as a prarabdha. And unless all the karmas are burned by actually getting the result of it or by getting realization of the meaning and learning the lesson of it, you will have to keep coming to the cycle of samsara. So, everything in astrology is actually about past karmas. So, not just D60. D60 in particular tells you about the major issues that have remained resolved in many of your births and are likely to remain resolved even in this birth. So I'll repeat that because that may be a handful to take. The issues that have remained unresolved in multitudes of births of yours and are likely to remain unresolved even in this birth. These are the limiting patterns which are going to trouble you a lot. That understanding is given by D60. I have mentioned in my thread a warning that this is not a start to thread it lightly. And I'll give you an example of why. D60 gives you about the Shrapa that you are carrying. Shrapa are curses. There are a lot of modern healers who claim to get you rid of all the curses that you have by touching your head or anything. There's a lot of corruption that has happened in this field, but D60 can actually tell you the curses that you're carrying because you might have done something very bad in your past lives. And there are many kinds of curses which have been described in the literature of Hindu philosophy as well as in astrology. Just give me one second. I think Cap is asleep. It is quite late, you know. But Cap doesn't sleep. How is he asleep? How is he asleep today? And also, Cap is his sound is very metallic this morning. Somehow I can't hear what he's saying. Only the metallic voice. But anyways, um, there are many curses. For example, there is something called and those curses are actually delineated by Maharshi Parashara in Brihat Parashara Horasastra. Those curses are curses like Stri Shrapa, curse of a woman. If you have done something really bad to a woman in one of your births, that can come in your life in the form of troubles from women. There is Brahma Hatya Shrapa, which is basically killing a Brahman, killing a learned man, killing a spiritually pure soul. That will trouble and destroy your lineage for at least 7 generations, and the many other kinds of curses. That is why many astrologers don't read D60 because, and even I avoid because fine, I may, from the point of view of curse, I may know about your curse, but what do I do with that? Am I powerful enough to give you a solution to your curses? No, I am not. Unfortunately, in most situations, it will be out of my power to help you with a curse. It is something you'll have to live with. It is only a highly spiritual being who can help you with that. A really evolved guru, and finding them is a very different matter. Good luck with that. So that is what D60 is. So Revati, this was specifically to answer your question on past karma and D60. D60 tells a lot about it, but the reason we don't look at D60 from that perspective is because what do we do with that information? I just can't do anything with that information. That makes life difficult for me. So, yes. Now, what I'll do is I'll just tell you about the important considerations that you have to see while looking at each of the Varga charts, each of the divisional chart, what they are, and what you need to look at while looking at the divisional charts. So, first is you need to look at the ascendant of each of the divisional charts. That is the most important thing. Next is you need to look at the Vargesh. Vargesh is if it is Navamsha D9, then the Vargesh should be the ninth house in the Rashi chart, the Lord of the ninth house in the Rashi chart. You need to look at that and you need to look at how things are happening in your Rashi chart. The next is what you call as Karya Rashi, Karyesha, and the Karaka. For example, if you should be examining spouse, or rather, you should be examining, say, children, then the fifth house is studies in Saptamsha, T7. So, fifth house is the Karya Rashi, is the significating sign. So, where the fifth house lord falls in the D7, like we talked, it becomes very important. It is the ruler of the Karya Rashi, and then there is a Karaka. So, every house has significator. So, when analyzing children for Saptamsha, then we must also note the position of Jupiter both in the Varga chart, which is D7 in this case, and we should also be looking at it in the Rashi chart. And then look at what are the combinations that are formed. If I have to look at when a person will get a child, that is when things. So these are the basic things that I told about Karayesh, Karaka, Vargesh. These things will be told to you in everything. Now, then comes the concept of Atma Karaka, Karakamsha Kundali, and Swamsha Kundali. I'm not getting into that. That is too technical. And second is, like I said, and that is why I took the time to explain the method of analysis that I use to start with. That is Laghu Parashari. So most of the Gemini significations, most of the Gemini things like Atma Karaka, I don't use at all in my analysis. Abhi? Revati, is my voice cracking again? I've just got feedback.
You sound good right now.
Okay, thank you. So Karakamsha and Swamsha. These are the two things that we will not be talking about. They are very important and they are very useful, but it will be a little out of the scope of the things that we are talking. We'll talk about how you analyze a chart, a Rashi chart. If someone asks me to analyze a Shaptamsha for someone, if someone asks me when will I get a children, what will I do? First, I'll analyze the Rashi chart in great detail from the Laghu Parashari method. And then I'll analyze the Shaptamsha in great detail in the Laghu Parashari method. I'll look at the dignities, how the dignities have changed. I'll look at the maleficence and the beneficence, how they have changed. And on the basis of all of that, I'll give a comprehensive nirnaya, a comprehensive understanding of what and when it is supposed to come. There is another trick that I wanted to share. In my experience, and I started doing that after learning about the experience of Sri K. N. Rao, when it comes to birth time rectification, you do not really need to look at the individual Bimshottari Dashas or the individual Varga charts. There is absolutely no need for doing that. So how do you do that? You do that by the Bimshottari Dasha of the Rashi chart, and then you analyze the significations of the birth chart of the Varga chart on the basis of the things that you have analyzed from the Varga chart. So the Vimshottari Dasha system, it remains the same. You have frozen it in time. So, for example, you have a period of Mars. Now, there is no connection of Mars to the Putra Karaka, the significator of children. There is no connection of Mars to the fifth house or Lagna or second house in your Rashi chart. However, in your Shaptamsha, there is a clear connection with both the Saptamsha Lord and either of the Saptamsha Lord or the fifth house of the Saptamsha, that is D7. You can very confidently predict that during the major Antardasha of Mars, there is a high likelihood that the person will get a child. What will be the sex and all that? I'm not getting into there, but you can tell everything. You can even tell the Adhana Samaya. Adhana Samaya is what will be the approximate time of conception of so that this child will come to life at this time. This can be done with the help of your Saptamsha. So that is where you use Rashi and Varga simultaneously. One without the other is not the solution. In the Varga charts, you use everything. Use the aspects, you use the significations, the house signification, use the signs, and up to D10, even D60 for every chart. Actually, you can even use the Lagna and the Chandra Nakshatra for the Varga charts. I know this, I'm getting into a very, very contentious space, but I'm giving you on the solid basis of both experience and scriptures. This can be and this should be done. You should look at all the position, aspect, and conjunction. You should read that chart as a separate chart. Now there comes the next question. After D10, a lot of these these Varga charts will give you Rahu and Ketu in the same house. How do you tackle that? That is very easy. If you understand how to tackle Rahu and Ketu in the Laghu Parashari method, you don't assign any signs to Rahu and Ketu. You don't assign any aspect to Rahu and Ketu. You don't assign anything like exaltation and debilitation degrees to Rahu and Ketu. You don't assign. So, what are Rahu and Ketu? Rahu and Ketu are shadow planets. And they will give the effect of the planet that they are staying with. They will, if there are no planets they are staying with, they will give the effect of the planet in whose house they are. And third, they will give the effect of the planet which are aspecting them. So suppose you have the Shashtiyamsha of the the Dwadashamsha of a person, and he has Rahu and Ketu in the seventh house. And suppose that the ascendant of the Dwadashamsha, the 12th, the D12, in this case, is Gemini. It is Mithun Lagna. Therefore, seventh house will be seventh from Gemini. So what will be seventh from Gemini? So it goes like Gemini, then it is Cancer, then it is Leo, Virgo, Taurus, Scorpio, Sagittarius. Sagittarius is your seventh house. So Sagittarius in this case is owned by Jupiter. So Rahu and Ketu, if there is other planet, they will give the effect of that planet along with them. If they are staying alone together, they will give the effect of Jupiter, and they will give the effect of everyone which is aspecting them. Now, Rahu and Ketu are Krura grahas, so depending on the exact positions of, but they're shadow planets, so they will be Krur or Akrur will also be dependent on the planets that they're giving the impact of. They can give the impact of both a Krura and a Saumya, which means that they can give the impact of both a benefic and a malefic. That is how you study for Rahu and Ketu in divisional charts. Okay. So, what have I said? You analyze the entire chart as if it is a separate Earth chart. Rahu and Ketu rule I have already given you. You analyze it completely. So, first of all, how do you analyze in the Laghu Parashari method? There are ways to understand which planets are malefic for a particular ascendant and which planets are benefic to a particular ascendant. What are the ways? For example, I'll give you some rules. If a benefic is the lord of a center house, that is 1, 4, 7, and 10, it loses its beneficence. Let that sink in. Suppose a Venus or a Mercury or alone Mercury, because Mercury gives, if it is conjuncted with someone, things will be different, or a Venus. Suppose these are owning one of the houses. Owning means that there is time where in one of the houses 1, 4, 7, and 10. They will become benefics for your chart. If a crude, if a natural malefic is owning one of the Kendra houses, they will lose their maleficence. They will become benefic. And then there are many rules. Okay. Accordingly, you identify which planets are good, bad, and neutral for that particular Varga chart. Next, you must use Shadbala for Varga charts. Most softwares don't give it. I calculate manually. But Shadbala for Varga chart gives you a great idea that if there are conflicting opinions about which planet will affect a particular signification at a particular point in time, what is it that you should be doing? So that is where you use Shadbala for a birth chart. With all these tools at your disposal, what you look at the Lagna, you look at the Karaka Bhava. So for D7, when you are looking at children, you look at the ascendant, you look at the fifth house, you look at the ascendant lord, you look at the fifth house lord. You look at the ascendant lord in Rashi in the Varga, you look at the fifth house lord in Rashi and the Varga. And you analyze. For a specific area, you have to analyze only a specific part, but the basic analysis of the Laghu Parashari method that I talked about has to be done. If you do that, you will be able to come to the exact signification and use Shadbala to find the relative importance or the weaknesses of a particular planet. I'll give a very simple sutra learned from tradition from someone who told me. He was kind enough. It was Rohit Ashra who told me. So we normally get very upset if there is a malefic planet, right? And a malefic is debilitated or a benefic is debilitated. We are very, very afraid of debilitation. If the planet is benefic for you as per Laghu Parashari method, and if it gets debilitated, it is like your best friend is a gangster. I'll repeat. If a planet, as per your chart, say it is Saturn, is a benefic as per your ascendant, and it has debilitated, it means that Saturn is your fast friend, is your great friend, who also happens to be a gangster. What will a gangster friend do for you? If he wants to benefit you, he will not see what is right and what is wrong. He will trample everyone and everything in order to get your thing done. So if you have a Karak as per Laghu Parashara and that is debilitated, that is like a fabulous, fabulous placement. Now you can't know that through any other method of astrology. That is again the beauty of those 40 shlokas. It tells you that. Okay. Now, suppose a benefic who is exalted. What does it mean? It means that your best friend is like the mayor of a town. You want to do a business without breaking any laws, he can give you some benefits. So he does it in a good way, but he also benefits. Now, suppose your your functional benefit, suppose, is in a enemy's house as per the Panchadha Maitri system. What is Panchadha Maitri? We have this thing of functional relationship. Tatkalik Maitri. If suppose your benefic as per your Lagna is sitting in an enemy's house, what does it tell? That he is your friend. He wants to do good for you, but he's not able to because he is busy protecting himself. Similarly, if you have a benefic who is in a best friend's house, it means that he is very comfortable and he can do what he wants to do for you. Similarly, you can extend it for functional malefics. What is it? Functional malefics debilitated. It means that your worst enemy is a gangster. He will not let you succeed in your initiatives. He will create all sort of problems for you. Suppose he is exalted, which means that your worst enemy is now the mayor of a town or the president of a country. He'll very easily roger you without breaking any laws. Suppose he is in a enemy's house. Good for you, because your fast enemy is now sitting in an enemy's house and he's taking care of himself. He can't trouble you. If he's in a friend's house, again, he can trouble you. Similarly for neutral. So, with all this, and similarly for Rahu Ketu, by conjunction, you know that whether by conjunction Rahu Ketu can be Yoga Karak for you. Do you know that? As per Laghu Parashari principle, Rahu Ketu are also Yoga Karak. So many astrologers, they get surprised that so many people, they gain so much during Rahu period. They get extremely surprised when they see that they get so much even during the Ketu period. Why? Because if Rahu or Ketu is Yoga Karak for you, by virtue of placement or by virtue of association or by virtue of conjunction, because that is how Rahu Ketu works. They don't have any aspect in the Laghu Parashari system. If they are benefics for you, and say they occupy the house of Jupiter and Jupiter is benefit for you, it can be fabulous for you. They can turn around your life. So what is malefic, what is benefic doesn't depend on their natural characteristics. That depends on your level. And this analysis you will have to do for your divisional charts also, and accordingly you have to do it. So I know that this space is supposed to go 2 hours, but as you can see, I'm not feeling extremely well. I'm. It seems like I'm running slight fever. So I would like to open the house for some questions if you have, or else we'll and observations, or else we'll close the spaces with the permission of Revati and Cap, because I'm not feeling very good and it will be difficult for me to continue that. Revati, you there?
Hello.
Yeah, Cap, go ahead, please. Cap can't hear anything. Revati, maybe you will have to speak because it doesn't seem like Cap is able to. Okay, seems like our co-hosts are having some problem, but generally, I am opening the spaces for questions on the things that we talked about, and maybe we'll take a few questions. After that, I'll have to close the space because I'm not feeling very good. Those of you who want to ask a question, you can ask a question. I'll be waiting for questions for a few seconds. After that, we'll close the session.
If anybody would like to grab a mic, it's in the lower left hand side, and then I'm sure we'll be happy to give you one. All right, if that's it, then I think we're good.
Cool. Thank you everyone for joining in. The recording will be available. I think Revati will be uploading the recordings on YouTube as well.
Yes, I will.
Any of
Thank you
you,
for the permission.
yeah. And any of you who might have missed some parts or of the discussion today, they can actually log into YouTube or even see the recording here. I'll be sharing that, and Kazumi will also be sharing. So thank you everyone again for coming, and thank you Revati, thank you Cap for hosting it, and thank you for making Kazumi Con a reality. So that's all from my side, everyone. Have a good day, night, evening, morning, wherever you are. See you. Bye bye.